Let me tell you something that will shake your entire understanding of attraction. Women don't remember the men who loved them most. They remember the men who impacted them deepest. There's a massive difference between being liked and being unforgettable. Most men aim to be the nice guy, the safe choice, the one who does everything right, and then they wonder why she forgets them 6 months later. Here's the brutal truth. Every woman has one man she will never erase from her memory. Not the richest, not the most handsome, not even the kindest. The one who left a mark so deep on her psychology that years later, in quiet moments, she still thinks about him. That's not a memory. That's a scar, and scars don't fade. They reshape how she sees herself, relationships, and every man who comes after. Today, I'm showing you exactly how to become that man. Not through games, not through cruelty. Through presence so authentic and strength so undeniable that you change her forever. If you're tired of being forgotten, this changes everything. Most men completely misunderstand what makes them memorable. They think it's about being perfect, having the right lines, never making mistakes. Wrong. The man who leaves a scar is the one who's unapologetically real. Even when it's uncomfortable, he says no when everyone else says yes. He walks away when everyone else begs to stay. He holds his ground when everyone else folds. That authenticity cuts deep, because she's surrounded by men performing for her approval. But you're not performing, you're just being. And that rare authenticity creates an impact that nice words never could. Here's what female psychology actually responds to. Strength that doesn't apologize. When you set a boundary and hold it, something activates in her mind. Most men are terrified of setting boundaries. They think it means losing her, but the opposite happens. The man who can say no, that doesn't work for me, becomes unforgettable. Because 98% of men will fold the moment she pushes back. You don't. And that strength marks her memory permanently. She might test you. She might argue. She might even act upset. But deep down, her psychology is registering something powerful. This man respects himself more than he needs my approval. And that self-respect becomes magnetic. Years later, she'll remember the man who had the spine to stay true to himself, not the ones who bent to keep her happy. Here's another truth most men miss entirely. Walking away first is more powerful than any love confession. Most men cling. They stay even when disrespected. They beg for scraps of attention. They think persistence equals love. It doesn't. It equals desperation. But the man who can walk away first, calmly and without drama, flips her entire psychology upside down. Suddenly she's not the prize being chased. She's watching someone choose himself over her. That reversal burns into her memory. Because it's rare. Because it's unexpected. Because it shows her that you value your dignity more than her validation. And that kind of strength, she'll compare every man to you for the rest of her life. If this is already changing how you see attraction, hit subscribe. I break down real female psychology every week that most men never learn. Once you understand how her mind actually works, you stop being forgettable. Here's where this gets even deeper. The man who leaves a scar doesn't compete for her attention. Think about this carefully. When you're competing for a woman's attention, you're silently saying, "You're above me, and I need to prove my worth." That kills attraction instantly. Because women's psychology is wired to respect men who create their own world, not men who beg for entry into hers. The unforgettable man is so consumed with his own mission, his own goals, his own life, that he doesn't have time to fight for her spotlight. And ironically, that's what draws her in. She becomes curious. Why isn't he chasing like everyone else? That question plants itself in her mind, and it grows into obsession. Years later, she'll remember the man who made her work for his attention. Because he showed her his time was valuable, his presence wasn't cheap, and his life didn't revolve around her. Now here's the psychological principle that separates temporary interest from permanent impact. The man who controls his desire becomes unforgettable. Most men lose all composure around an attractive woman. They chase, they beg, they fold. The moment she senses you can't control yourself, she knows she controls you. But the man who desires her yet restrains himself, he flips the entire dynamic. He shows discipline, self-mastery, strength beyond physical attraction. And in female psychology, that self-control communicates something deeper. He can lead, he can focus, he can handle pressure. Women remember the man who wasn't desperate to have them, because he forced them to question their own value. Why doesn't he need me like everyone else? That question burns. And the longer it burns, the deeper the mark. Here's another layer most men never consider. Making her earn respect creates lasting impact. Too many men give respect freely. They meet a beautiful woman and instantly treat her like a queen, even though she's done nothing to deserve it. That free respect has no value. What comes too easily gets taken for granted. The man who makes her earn his respect through her behavior, her consistency, her character changes her psychology. She's used to men lowering themselves in the presence of beauty. When you don't, it forces her to raise her game. She has to prove her loyalty, her intentions, her worth, and that challenge is what she secretly craves. It separates you from every other man who fell at her feet. She'll never forget the man who had standards, who didn't let beauty be enough, who made her rise to meet his level instead of lowering himself to impress her. Here's where most men fail completely. They give validation too freely, compliments every minute, constant reminders of how perfect she is. And here's the harsh truth. When validation is cheap, it loses all power. She gets flooded with praise from desperate men daily. Does she remember any of them? Never. The man she never forgets is the one who withholds validation, who only speaks when it truly means something. That rare validation hits different. It feels earned, not handed out. And earned validation stays in her memory forever. This doesn't mean being cold. It means your approval has standards. You observe, you measure, and only when she truly deserves it do you let her know she's valued. That's when your words carry weight. That's when they leave a mark. Here's the final principle that creates permanent impact. Breaking her routine. Women get bored faster than they admit. They crave unpredictability and emotional highs, yet most men become predictable. Same texts, same dates, same conversations. Predictable men are forgettable men. They become another habit, another box checked in her day. The man who breaks her routine stands out. He doesn't fit neatly into her schedule. He disrupts her patterns in ways that force her to feel something different. And those feelings stick. She might know exactly when other men will text, where they'll take her, what they'll say. But you keep her guessing. You challenge her patterns. You bring energy she didn't expect. That disruption creates impact. Not through chaos, but through refusing to be ordinary. In female psychology, routine is comfort, but disruption is desire. The man who disrupts without being chaotic, who keeps her on edge in just the right way, becomes unforgettable. So here's the bottom line. Stop trying to be the man she loves. Become the man she never forgets. Love is temporary. Respect is permanent. Impact is everything. The nice guy who gives her everything, she forgets him. The man who challenged her, who had boundaries, who chose himself, she thinks about him for years. That's not cruelty. That's psychology. That's reality. Before we end, if you want to understand real female psychology instead of the fairy tales everyone else teaches, subscribe to this channel. I reveal how her mind actually works every single week. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most men will play it safe. They'll fade from memory. They'll wonder why she's thinking about someone else. But if you have the courage to be unapologetically authentic, to set real boundaries, to choose yourself even when it's uncomfortable, you won't just be remembered. You'll be the standard she compares everyone else to. The scar that never heals. The name that comes up in quiet moments. Not because you hurt her, but because you impacted her so deeply that forgetting you became impossible. Stop aiming to be liked. Start aiming to be unforgettable, because a memory fades, but a scar lasts forever.